Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us because today we're unpacking a truly invisible rule, the hidden mechanic that literally makes the entire universe work. It's a principle so deeply embedded in our day-to-day reality that if it just suddenly vanished, you couldn't walk, you couldn't drive, swim, or even stand up. Everything would just stop. So we're going to explore the fascinating, universal mechanics of interaction. Let's get right into it.
So, let's kick things off with a bit of a brain teaser. I want you to picture a rocket blasting its way through the deep vacuum of space. Out there's no air, there's no ground, there is absolutely nothing around it to push off of. So, how on Earth, or I guess off Earth, does it actually continue to accelerate and move forward? Just kind of hold that thought in your head for a second.
And here's another one for you, maybe a little closer to home. Next time you're outside, look up at the sky and ask yourself, why do birds not just drop right out of it? I mean, gravity is constantly pulling them down, right? But they just effortlessly glide and soar up there. What invisible ladder are they climbing to actually stay aloft?
Okay, one last scenario. Think about the last time you went swimming. You want to move forward, right? You want to get to the other side of the pool. But to do that, your arms and legs are actively shoving the water backward, totally away from your actual destination. Why does pushing something backwards magically propel you forward? Well, that specific knowledge gap is exactly what we're going to close today.
To solve all these mysteries, we really need to understand the core rule at play here.
Way back in 1687, Isaac Newton pretty much changed science forever when he laid out this definition. Newton's third law states that whenever one object exerts a force on another, the second object simultaneously exerts an equal and opposite force on the first. Or, if you prefer the famous punchy equation version, action force equals reaction force. Now, you've probably heard the classic textbook catchphrase everyone repeats, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. But there's a massive difference between just memorizing a quote and actually understanding it. The real meaning here is that forces always exist in interacting pairs simultaneously. No single object in the universe can ever apply a force completely alone. You literally cannot touch something without being touched back.
To really wrap our heads around this, we just need to focus on three key words. First up, every. There are zero exceptions here. A magnetic pull, a muscular push, a massive collision, it doesn't matter, the law applies. Second, equal. The interacting forces have exactly the same magnitude. Not kind of close, not approximately, exactly. And third, opposite. The forces act in perfectly opposing directions. If you push east, the universe is going to push west.
Now, even knowing those three words, there are some pretty huge misconceptions we've got to bust right away. The biggest one? I call it the cause and effect illusion. As humans, we're totally wired to think chronologically, right? We think an action happens first, and then a reaction follows later as a sort of response. But that is a myth. The reality is that both forces occur simultaneously with zero delay. In the exact fraction of a millisecond, your hand pushes a wall. That wall is already pushing your hand right back. Then there's what we call the cancellation paradox. I hear this one all the time. People ask, well, if the forces are always perfectly equal and opposite, shouldn't they just cancel each other out so nothing ever moves at all? Nope. The secret is that the forces act on completely different objects. You push the wall pushes you. Because the forces are targeting entirely different bodies, they absolutely do not cancel each other out.
Think about it like this. If you forcefully shove a wall, what's the reaction? The wall shoves your hand, and the result? Your hand hurts. The force acted specifically on your hand. It's the same thing when you walk. Your foot pushes the earth backward, so the earth pushes your foot forward. The result is that you walk forward. It's always two distinct objects interacting to create real-world results.
Okay, I want to share a totally mind-bending fact with you to really cement this. Think about the number 700 newtons. If the Earth is currently pulling you down into your chair with a gravitational force of, say, 700 newtons, this exact law dictates that you are simultaneously pulling the Earth up with exactly 700 newtons of force. I know it sounds totally absurd, but it's entirely true. The only reason you don't see the Earth flying up to meet your shoes is because the Earth's massive, unimaginable weight prevents that 700 newtons from accelerating it noticeably. But your pull on the Earth is very real, and it perfectly equals your own weight.
So, how does this incredible cosmic rule actually play out in our everyday lives? Well, take something as simple as walking. We do it all day completely on autopilot, but it's actually a pure three-step physics equation.
Step 1, your foot pushes the earth backward. Step 2, the earth pushes your foot forward. Step 3, that forward reaction force moves your whole body. This is exactly why trying to walk on smooth ice is so ridiculously difficult. Without friction, your foot can't push the earth backward, which means the earth cannot push you forward.
And nature actually figured this whole thing out millions of years before Newton was even born. Take squids and octopuses. They literally use nature's own jet propulsion. They squeeze and eject water backward out of their bodies at super high speeds. The equal and opposite reaction of that water being forced out is what pushes them rapidly forward. Marine biology evolved to exploit this exact physical law for survival.
And of course, it's not just biology. This exact same principle is literally powering modern engineering.
Remember that rocket mystery from the very beginning of the explainer? Well, here is the big reveal. Rockets absolutely do not need air to push against. They push against their own expelled exhaust gases. The engine blasts hot gas downward at a tremendous speed. That blast is the action. The equal and opposite reaction is the gas pushing the rocket upward. So even in the absolute dead vacuum of space, Newton's third law is right there providing the thrust.
Basically, all of our transportation engineering relies entirely on manipulating these paired forces. Helicopter rotors furiously push air down just so the air will push the helicopter up. Jet engines push gas back so the gas pushes the plane forward. And your car? The tires are just pushing the road backward so the road literally pushes your car forward. The entire automotive and aviation industries are just cleverly harnessing equal and opposite forces.
When you zoom out, you realize this single law is essentially the universal language of physics.
Because these pushes and pulls are always perfectly equal and opposite, they naturally ensure something called the conservation of momentum. During any interaction, let's say a gun firing or two cars crashing, the forces act for the exact same amount of time. This means whatever momentum one object gains is perfectly, flawlessly balanced by the other object's loss. When a bullet shoots forward out of a barrel, the gun violently kicks backward into your hand. The total momentum of that system is completely conserved.
It really is the missing puzzle piece in classical mechanics. Newton gave us a foundational triad. His first law tells us what happens when the net force on something is zero. The second law, that famous F equals ma, tells us exactly how objects accelerate when a force is applied. But it's this third law that completes the loop. It explains why those forces absolutely always come in interacting pairs. You literally can't have a push without a pushback.
And get this, objects don't even have to be touching. This unbreakable rule extends across the cosmos. Even invisible, non-contact forces like gravity and magnetism are bound by it. The Earth reaches out through hundreds of thousands of miles of empty space and pulls on the Moon. But simultaneously, the Moon reaches right back and pulls on the Earth with the exact same force. That paired interaction creates the delicate gravitational dance that dictates our ocean tides and our planet's orbit.
So, if there's one thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this powerful idea. Newton's third law is the universal language of interactions. It is silently governing every single push, pull, collision, flight, and journey across the entire cosmos. From the tiniest little insect launching itself off a leaf to the most massive galaxies colliding in deep space, this is the elegant, invisible rule that governs it all.
Which brings us to a final question for you to chew on. The next time you take a simple stroll down the street, or throw a ball to a friend, or even just clap your hands together, will you be able to actually feel those invisible forces at play? Now that you know the universe is always, always pushing back, I really hope you never look at a simple, everyday interaction the same way again. Keep exploring, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next explainer.